Hi, I'm the Multifarious fisherman. This is 7 Fish. We are in the cabin today. A Nemesis fly, 4-weight St. Croix Legend Elite. I've showed you several times a pattern that I tie, and I keep promising to do a how to tie it, and here is your how to tie it. The fly pattern is called the Nemesis. It is my own pattern. I will show you some examples here, a couple of different colors that we tie it in. Certainly don't limit it to just those colors, but that's a handful of colors that I had tied already. I'm showing two sizes there. The smaller one is the one that I fish for trout, panfish. I've caught actually a number of species on it, including that 16-inch crappie, that Master Angler crappie that I caught on my St. Croix the day that I took it out for the first time. Look at that fish. Holy smokes. Two of the patterns that are somewhat unique, I don't see a lot, I use actually quite a bit, are that purple over yellow, I tend to call that psychobilly, and the black over purple. The black over purple is the one that was responsible for the big crappie. Bigger patterns are predominantly shad patterns, although I have a skunk pattern there, a gray over black as well. The shaddy patterns obviously are more predator fish. I caught pike on them, I've caught largemouth on them. I have a couple of different vices. I'm going to use this lever action vise because it holds bigger hooks well. This is not a bigger hook. This is one of the smaller flies that I tied. When I use deer hair or when I'm tying bigger flies that have more leverage, it just gives me more strength. All I did is make a wrap up and down the thread over a piece of thread so that that's snug on that hook. I'm going to put just a drop of cyanoacrylate glue. That helps to keep the lead eyes from rotating on the hook. So this is a very small lead eye. They call them dumbbell eyes because they're shaped a little bit like a dumbbell. So I've got the hook in upside down for the time being, which is going to permit me to lay these on top. It's a little easier than trying to tie them in underneath the hook. You're going to give yourself a little space from the eye of the hook. We're going to take some wraps diagonally one way, diagonally the other way, a little bit in front, a little behind. Important to note, I'm not using a gel spun or GSP thread. GSP thread is a Spectra or Dyneema fiber Superlines are made out of. The reason that I don't want to use that, because they're good and tough, and you think, well, it's, tying lead eyes or rabbit fur, some of these things, it would be helpful to have that strength. In reality, I need stretch. The reason I want stretch is because I've taken those wraps and now I'm taking some wraps underneath the lead eye. Those diagonal fibers that go around the hook, as I crisscross it, they sit out away from there a little bit. Then if I take some wraps underneath that lead eye and pull, it sucks them in, and that stretchy line allows that to tighten up, but it really never loosens over time. With no stretch thread, you never get a truly tight eye, and that thing's on there pretty darn good. It's pretty tight. I'm just going to put another little dab here of cyanoacrylate on there and let that kind of soak in. That's going to help hold those eyes onto the hook. I'm going to take my thread back to about where the hook starts to bend. You have to be a little bit careful that that hook point doesn't cut your thread because it will do that. I have some zonker strips. The zonker strip is typically rabbit hair. It's hard to find rabbit hair that is small enough, so this will actually be pine squirrel. I'm going to measure the shank of that hook so that I know how long to make the tail, because you typically make that tail about the length of your hook. I'm going to separate that hair, kind of comb part of it forward so that I have a specific place to wrap that. And I'm going to take a pass over with my thread, just like 2 wrap. I don't need a bunch. I want to secure that down, put that out of the way. I need some yellow marabou. I'm going to take a chunk of marabou, measure it similarly to how I had measured the other. And I want those natural tips. A loose wrap and then tighten it. Take another clump, measure it the same way. Take a loose wrap, tighten it. So I have some opalescent mirage tinsel. I'm going to put that on the hook. Normally prior to this I might tie a little Flashabou or crystal flash in. On this particular color I don't think it's necessary. I love it on the black and purple. I'm going to wrap these marabou around around that and secure them, and all that's going to do is build up a little mass to that body. So I'll clip that marabou, tied in right behind the lead eyes. Now I've got this opalescent tinsel which is tied in, and I'm just going to overwrap that marabou with this tinsel so that I have a shiny body in there. That's the body of the fly, and it gives a little shine, it gives a little more something to it. I need now another little clump of marabou to make the underside of this fly. I'm going to make it the same length. Wrap it loose and then tighten. I need this out of my way. I want to put a little marabou dubbing on here. I'm going to wax this thread. You can dubbing loop this. It's not typically what I do. All of this scrap marabou on the pieces that I cut, if I spin that on the thread, I'm going to wet that to keep it out of my way. It makes a fuzzy thread. I'm going to crisscross those eyes with that marabou dubbing and create a fairly full head material. So what I want is a little bulk, a little build-up body to that thread. And again, it's in marabou. It's actually made from the same feather as the underbody's made from. And what that does for me is it gives me a perfect color match. I need to get back behind the head again. One strand of silicone rubber leg. I'm going to double it up so I can cut it in half. I'm going to take half. I'm going to put it on my thread, run it up. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Run this one up in the same location. I want them right on the sides of the body. Now I'm going to pull that back and wrap over it just to get it tied in good. Now I need to tie in my zonker strip over the top. I'm going to measure where that needs to go. I'm going to pull all that hair back because I want it to be plenty full there. And I'm just going to wrap over the top. Right behind the eye of the hook, right ahead of my dumbbell eyes. Gives this guy a little crazy Mohican looking haircut. Now I just need to finish my tie off and this fly is done. Got a little pine squirrel zonker on top. I've got marabou underneath. I've got some red legs. Sorry, I already had cemented it. A little red slash down the side. We got some marabou. We got some purple pine squirrel. Brown over orange, very crawdaddy looking guy. Black over purple. That's a nice one.